All right, here he is. The last time we spoke to him, he had no voice from celebrating the Tar Heels, putting an end to the Coach K era. That was back in April. He finally got his voice back. One half, let's face it, the better half of the Titus and Tate podcast. Our good pal, Tate Frazier, is here. What's happening, Tate?
Oh, yeah. It's so great to be back. So great to be back. And I love that you brought up that great moment in time, Sal. I hope that every time I come on this show, you bring up that game, that moment, that time, because I want to relive it forever. It was the best.
I was thinking, has anyone heard from Coach K since the loss in the national semifinal? I just read that he said he wouldn't attend any Duke games this season, but is that you really might have put him away?
Well, when I was in North Carolina last, about a month ago, Coach K had a town hall in Durham to celebrate his legacy while I was in town. It was brought to you by SiriusXM. So he's doing a lot of, it's very Trumpian of him. He's doing some under the radar rallies and things, you know what I mean?
See.
So that seems to be what his MO is. But yeah, Coach K, I call him Mr. K now, Sal. He's not a coach anymore, even though he kept his office at Duke.
Really?
I only refer to him as Mr. K. So I hope Mr. K is having a great life, outside of basketball.
Mr. K is even more. I don't know. I think it's you're giving him more credit than even Coach K. Mr. T isn't really. Yeah, okay, I can go either way. I'm saying. All right, before we talk NBA draft, hey, I want your thoughts on Steph Curry. 4 championships, finally gets the finals MVP. Does this put him in your top 10 players all time? Davidson retired his number. They're like, oh, this guy's got the goods. We didn't notice. He had 3 championships, but now we got to retire his number. Were you? A lot of people have to rank players. We did it with Gronk. I still have Curry over Gronk. No, where do you have Curry in the top 10? At all?
I feel like Davidson had a rule, right, that he had to graduate before that they would retire his number. It was a very old school thing, so that's why they had to wait. But also hilarious that they still made him graduate. That's a very North Carolina private school thing to do. But respect to Steph Curry for that. And I kind of look at it where in my head I always thought Magic Johnson, right? When you say best point guard ever, you would just say Magic Johnson. That's where you would start. He's the best point guard ever, and he's the only guy that won a championship, on Boston's court in 1985 until Steph Curry just did it. So the way that I kind of, compartmentalize it in my head is kind of that passing of the torch where when someone asks me who the greatest point guard is, I'm going to say probably Steph Curry, right? I would have usually said Magic Johnson. Then I would have said Michael Jordan. Then I would have said probably LeBron James as a small forward, even though I've, heard Elgin Baylor, I've heard Larry Bird, whatever. But I think the way that I put Curry in my mind is he's the greatest point guard ever. I think Tim Duncan is the greatest power forward ever. I think Michael Jordan's the greatest shooting guard ever. I think LeBron James is the best small forward ever. And I think, at center, it's Kareem, but you can argue to me Shaq, because I saw Shaq dominate, You could argue Akeem Olajuwon, who Shaq said was better than him, right? So
people love Olajuwon. People love, that's the one where you talk to ex-players and everything, like that guy got, not a raw deal, and his game would translate, and he'd be hitting threes today and everything, and don't sleep on, you got to put Wilt and all those guys that we never saw up
Bill Russell, right?
Bill Russell, sure.
There. Yes. But I think Curry's actually in that conversation, and I used to kind of say that. I used to, when he first kind of came out, I was a big Curry guy. I was coming out of North Carolina. I used to watch the late night games and just be like, this guy's incredible. So I'd always say he was going to be like Michael Jordan level, but I kind of thought it was facetious. But now he's actually in that conversation, and the same amount of titles as LeBron. Right. That's a whole nother aspect of this. That's pretty shocking. So, I think legacy wise, Steph Curry, I'm going to say is the greatest point guard ever, even though he really isn't just a point guard.
Yeah, no, it's true. But honestly, to make it official, we really should check in with Harry, who doesn't think Derek Jeter's Hall of Fame material. But go ahead.
Well, guess what? I was just going to mention to Tate, too. Tate, you just mentioned like 8 point guards are the greatest. Where's Stockton on your list?
8 point guards. He did?
Yeah,
where
I guess
did he say
LeBron's a point guard now. LeBron's a point guard.
When he listed his point guards.
I think Stockton's definitely up there.
I think he's considering when Tate gave off Jordan as shooting guard, LeBron as small forward. I think he thought he was listing point guards.
Magic point guard.
Magic was the best. He said it was between. It seemed to me it was between Magic and Steph, and now you're taking Steph. But Harry heard 6 other point guard names.
I think the only other point guard I would throw in there is Isaiah Thomas, right? I mean, he's the only short, small guard, right? That's like Curry that's actually in that conversation. But I mean, for me, it's Magic, Isaiah, LeBron. No, I'm kidding. Sorry, Harry. I will stop listing point guards.
Listen, Harry, he'll never change his opinion or his shirt. So that's all we're stopping. All right, I
haven't
will
worn
say
this one in a while.
Hey,
I like it, Harry.
Yeah.
Hey, now Draymond Green.
Clay Travis loved it.
Basketball podcasts. Where do you rank him? Do you still do a better podcast than Draymond Green? He's doing it right after every game. Did that bother you?
We talked about that on our show. Titus declared to the world that everyone that does a podcast is a loser, so therefore Draymond Green is a loser, which I thought was pretty funny. I felt bad for Draymond. I mean, the worst thing that you have to do is when you want to celebrate and you have to go record a podcast. And I had that feeling in New Orleans. You know, Titus. I was with my family. We just beat Coach K. Everyone's like, we're going to Bourbon Street. We're going out. And I'm like, I got to go find Mark Titus so I can talk on a YouTube live channel about the end of Coach K. But, you know, you feel for Draymond in that sense because he has to go do some work after a game. But I loved how quickly it flipped from everyone was like, this guy is horrible. The podcast is ruining him to that's just Draymond being Draymond, new media, you know what I mean? And it's all based on results, as everything is. So I find it more comedy than anything. And I also love that Draymond and JJ Redick act like they have no agenda, but the agenda is obvious. Like they're just trying to defend the players of their generation. You know, they're just going on these shows and just like fighting back. They never say a bad word about Kyrie. They're like, Kyrie has fans. Everyone loves Kyrie. I'm like, in what world?
You know, I was thinking about it. And, you know, there's enough of these games now on YouTube from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and the last 20 years. And I don't think it's like this in any other sport. Like I could watch a baseball game from the 80s and be like, yeah, that's as pleasing as it is to me now. Visually. Yeah. Football, the same thing, because I appreciate a 42-35 game and also a 16-13 game. So, you know, maybe they ran the ball way too much in the 70s, but at least in the last 20 years, I don't think there's been a monster difference in terms of how the game is played and visually how pleasing it is. NBA, if I showed you a game, a 3-hour game, what would be the most like? I feel there are too many threes right now. The team is going 10 for 37 and they're out of it. So I don't like the 2020 game. Obviously the 1985 game is a little slow. We like the ISO ball, but you know, we like Anthony Mason. That's fine. I'm kind of thinking around the turn of the century is the best in terms of if I'm going to watch a 3-hour game and guys spotting up, but not that much from three, and Shaq, and there was still a bunch of big men dominating inside. I'm curious to know your position on this. What's the best aesthetically pleasing look for an NBA game?
I think right now, you know, we're kind of fighting, we joke on our show, we call it a culture war, but there is kind of that going on where there is the 3-point variance that we have to deal with, which is guys, like you said, I mean, you go 10 for 37, the other team goes 20. Grant Williams won a game against Giannis Antetokounmpo because they basically said, you can shoot these threes and we'll play the percentages. And guess what? In this one night, in this one occasion, the percentages were in his favor and the best player in the world lost to this team. That shouldn't happen. And that's why I feel like as fans, you watch that and you're like, I feel like I'm not getting what I want to see here, right? I want to see, in my best, you know, version of this, I would like to have seen the Warriors face Giannis. And I hope next year we do get to see that, because then I think the one team I give the pass on the perimeter game is the Warriors, because they have the two shooters that on a bad day, they shoot 45%. Meanwhile, every one of these other teams, they're trying to shoot 45% on their best day. And that's not what you do. That's not who you are. So they're all imitators. They're all copycats. It's not fun to watch. Like you said, it's just like aesthetically, you're like, ew, get this out of my face. But I also don't want to get back to isolation basketball.
No, I get it. But that's why I'm thinking like 2005-ish. And then it's also the case, like every team has a superstar, which is great nowadays. And that wasn't the case 15 years ago. But Parlay Kid, you know what I'm saying here? Maybe 2000. I'm trying to think what looked the best to me, where it wasn't just 63s being hauled.
Yeah, well, no, it's hard for me to say too, because
Spurs basketball 2005 feels pretty good.
Which what'd you say? 2005? Yeah,
Spurs basketball.
Yeah, that was the Spurs changed some things, but you know, Sal, because you know, I still just as a fan, like it's hard for me to say, because I'm always going to harken back to the Knicks days when they had. You know, when they were fun to really watch, when they were just competitive. So from that point of view, you want to see your team be competitive and be in the chase for a championship every year. Right. In terms of, you know, what it's really hard for me to say like if what watching now is better than it was. I could just tell you that I just remember again. I could look it up. I should look it up and see, but it just seems like the games just aren't really. There's no really close battles like the way there used to be. At least, and that's just in my head.
Yeah. Darren, we've also talked about how there's the post game. No one's posting up down low. They don't use that for to exploit some other teams.
Yeah,
it's all threes or it's just
there's two big men. There's two good,
right,
great big men.
Again, and what do we consider like ISO ball? Because I still think there is ISO ball today. Like in a lot of cases, there's still you see.
Well, that's what happened. Is the Celtics started playing ISO ball while they were trying to play that small ball perimeter game. Also, they kind of got lost in their own identity because they had reverted back to their old ways, which was let's go ISO, and then it's like Jason Tatum just trying to get to the basket or take a step back three, right?
Right, exactly.
That's all it was.
Yeah, I agree with that, Tate, and it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens going forward. But I do agree. It would have been nice to see probably Milwaukee there, right, against Golden State.
Yeah, and I'm not even saying that. I get it as the players get faster, as they get better from shooting from long range. You're whatever era you're in, that's the best team. Like the 2022 Golden State Warriors could sweep the 2005 Spurs, and I'd be like, all right, that makes sense. It doesn't necessarily mean it's better to watch, right? Like
Agreed.
Oh,
they're better players, but anyway, all right, we could talk about this forever. Let's talk about this draft now. Brother Bry pointed out yesterday or the other day, it's been a while since we've gone this long, right before, this is the day before the draft now, and we still don't really know who's going first to the Orlando Magic, right? So there's odds set up, and the number one pick is supposed to be Jabari Smith from Auburn at minus 260, Paolo Banchero plus 260. That has gone up, and Chet Holmgren, 4-1 odds, is third. First of all, let's get you talking about Holmgren, Tate. Like, there's two schools of thought here, right? With Chet Holmgren, like, it's funny, goofy 7-foot white guy dominated a shit conference, going to be tough to translate into a solid everyday NBA player. Or, hey, the league is in need of a big man. We just talked about it. There's only two of them, right? It's Luka, and it's who am I forget? Why am I forget? Who's the other great center? Why am I forgetting that there's two great centers now?
Jokic.
You're talking about
and
Jokic?
Embiid. Yeah, not Luka. Yeah, I forgot the names already. Jokic and Embiid are the two centers. Be nice if we got another big man in there. Was a force down low. He had 19 points a game, 13 rebounds, 5 blocks. If we could add 30 pounds to his frame, you got a guy who can make some noise for some years. Which camp are you in right now with Chet Holmgren?
I'm in the camp of I'm fascinated by Chet. I believe that Chet's number one quality, and the reason why I am fascinated by him, is his defense, like you're talking about. I think the fact that if you're an Oklahoma City team that has stashed all these picks and you've been playing towards the 2030s, right? And you've been looking for one guy to start that actual build of a team, Chet makes a lot of sense just based on who they are. Their ideals for the future, the ideal of having a 5 that can switch onto a 1 and guard him. I mean, the most famous play of Chet's career is not even something that happened at Gonzaga. It was at Steph Curry's camp where he took Steph Curry off the dribble and dunked on him, right? And he has like the folklore about him, and I think that is what is tantalizing, the offense that could develop. But I worry about him putting on weight, what that will actually do to his frame. You know what I mean? And he is so unique. I'm worried he could be fragile. But the good news is that Steph Curry is the best player right now in basketball, and he's 6'3". And yes, he's put on, a lot of weight, or at least has tried to. And you hope Chet can do the same thing. So I don't think it's the same physicality so Chet can survive. I think his shot blocking, I think his anticipation, I think those things are all very unique to him. I feel like if you're the Magic, your worst case scenario is that you take Jabari Smith. He can average 20 points a game, but you fear that he is another guy, right? There's a lot of guys that can average 20 points a game if they get 20 shots. Chet is different, and he doesn't need 20 shots to have an impact on a game. And I like guys that can have an impact without having to take shots away from somebody else. So in that sense, I really am in on Chet. I'm not sure that he wants to have the pressure of being the number one pick. It might be great for him if he goes number 2 to Oklahoma City. They build around him, like I said, and he is kind of their foundational piece, and he can kind of be out of the way, no pressure. They're not trying to win games right now, and he can develop his skills. So in that sense, I like him more to OKC than I would number 1 to Orlando, because being number 1, there's a lot of profile that comes with that, and I'm not sure he's ready to be that guy.
Right. Okay, so now what Harry heard there is that you were automatically putting Chet Holmgren in your top 10 point guards of all time. I don't know. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. Maybe.
He's up there with
for Orlando.
So you told us earlier that I think this was before. I can't even tell what was recording or not. You said you talked to Bill Simmons and you reminded him that you had predicted Jabari Smith would go number 1 overall in the NBA draft. And he said to you on the phone, he's like, I told you that Jabari Smith would go number 1. And then he hung up the phone. But you actually have been calling this for a while, right?
Yeah, that's exactly how it happened. No, Jabari Smith, I mean, we at Auburn, I saw him, and I was like, this guy's unbelievable. And the reason why I was watching Auburn so closely is because Walker Kessler transferred from North Carolina. I was trying to keep up with him. Walker will be another first-round pick, but Jabari's an incredible scorer. He's 6'11". We joke all the time on our show about there's the next Kevin Durant, but he probably is the closest we've seen as far as shot making and how he plays and things like that. So he checks the box of being a number 1 pick. I can't believe he's actually, it looks like, going to be the number 1 pick. And what's so funny is I have a source with the Magic that I thought was going to give me intel, and I thought I was going to be able to break who they're going to take with the number 1 pick. And he has not said a word to me about Jabari Smith. I've asked, he never responds, but he's talked to me and said they love Paolo Banchero and that they love Chet Holmgren. So I feel like it's all a smoke screen, and they're going to take Jabari Smith number 1.
Okay, that's
and if that happens, I'll feel, I will feel good that at least I got something right in this life. Coach K, I got that right, and I got Jabari Smith going number 1.
That's pretty good. That's a pretty damn good resume, I would say. Jabari Smith and Mr. K, or whatever you call him now.
Mr.
All right, so
K, yeah.
if that happened, you like Smith first, Holmgren second, Banchero third to Houston. Is that how you're predicting your 3?
Yeah, apparently Houston really loves Paolo Banchero. And it makes a lot of sense because Jalen Green is very similar superstar, quote unquote, as Paolo Banchero. I think that they actually will probably be really good friends. They seem to have a lot in common, and they both thought that they should be the number 1 pick, right? Jalen Green went to all of his interviews and said, I am the number 1 pick. Paolo Banchero has been doing the same thing. He's impressed people in interviews, and people like the fact that he thinks he's the best player in the draft. And Houston especially likes that, and that's why they got rid of Christian Wood, right?
I guess so. I don't know.
6'10",
yeah, I guess that would make sense.
Play the 5.
Yeah, that's true. All right, Harry. So that takes care of the first 3. Let's go over some of these props. They're all listed on FanDuel.com/against-all-odds. Harry, you are pinpointing the number 4 pick exactly. Sacramento, you say, takes Jaden Ivy out of Purdue.
Yeah, at -130. It's 6'4". Great wingspan, great pedigree too. His mom played in WNBA, she's the head coach at Notre Dame. He can probably, as a rookie, probably any given night give you 20. Underrated rebounder for a guard. And I love watching the tournament when he didn't settle for jumpers. He would drive the lane. He would get easy hoops inside the paint. Does turn the ball over a little bit. I think he would need to work on his defense, but considering the type of team Sacramento is, Tate, in terms of give up a lot of points, score a decent amount of points. He's kind of a usual player that would fit into the Sacramento team, I think.
You keep saying to Tate, like you're just talking to Tate, but there's the other 3 of us, and there's the whole other audience that's listening. But okay, go ahead, Tate. Yeah.
Well, thank you for talking to me, Harry. I appreciate that. I think that Ivy should go 4th, right? I think he honestly should be in the conversation to go in the top 3, but for whatever reason, he's been deemed a tier below these other guys. Right. He's got a quick first step. He's great going downhill. He's kind of like an Anthony Edwards, John Morant type guard in this new NBA that we live in, which is basically get by somebody and get to the basket. And get us a bucket. And I really like the idea of him being next to Cade Cunningham. I think Cade Cunningham is a great guard, but he has a glaring, blind spot, which is his athleticism. And if you put a guy like Ivy next to him, you take care of that and you shore that up and you get Ivy to buy in on the defensive end. And I think if you're the Pistons, you're looking at it and you're like, we got Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars here. We got 2 high-level guards that can really be really good in this current NBA. I think that the Kings really like Keegan Murray. Apparently Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox took him to dinner. So that's the only thing that worries me about Ivy going there. And Ivy said he hasn't talked to the Kings. And the reason why is because his management said we will not talk to the Kings. But there's a chance.
No. Oh, this pick sucks then.
Well, but there's a chance. There's a chance that they just take him and use him as trade bait, right? And that's probably what they do here. They probably take him at 4. And that's why it's probably a good bet.
I do worry because, all right, so that's the top 4 right there. But does it usually go in order? Is it usually a screw job somewhere in the top 4? And then Parlay Kid thinks he has the number 5 pick right here.
Yeah, well, look, this is a little bit of a long shot here, son. I do think I agree with what Tate is saying. I mean, Ivy really should go 4th in this draft. I'm hoping if I could have found it, maybe one of you guys saw the odds. I'm still holding out hope and think it could happen with the Knicks moving up to try to get that 4th pick because they love Ivy. And they've made it known that they would love to get him. So I think he'd be a great fit for the Knicks. So if you could find odds on Ivy going to the Knicks.
They don't have those yet.
Right. Later in the day.
We should see those. I just don't know what the hell the Knicks give up for that.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, the Knicks I think they're going to make some type of move here because how many first-round picks do you need to draft? I mean, they don't need to have all these first-round picks that they have, too. So, Tate, I am rolling with the 5 pick because I actually think this guy, I think Matherin out of Arizona is a perfect fit for Cade Cunningham, a 3-and-D, rangy guy who is a high-character guy. From what I've read here with the Pistons is that their GM likes high-character guys. Matherin fits that bill, and he's a guy that doesn't need the ball to play well. Yeah, he can play off the ball, and really he can elevate Cunningham's terrific all-around game. I think he'd be a great fit. He's starting to climb up the boards here, and the fifth pick it's a little bit of a reach right now, plus 280 to go 5th, but he's starting to pop up on some people's boards at the 5th spot, which wasn't the case 2 weeks ago. He's creeping up. Probably his average draft position is 6. So again, that's why I'm getting plus 280 here. Yeah, I think he's a great fit for the Pistons at 5.
I do like the idea before you weigh in, Tate, that a GM has to actually come out and say he likes high character guys. Like, what would be like, no, we want a guy who every Saturday night we're going to find him passed out behind a dumpster at Applebee's right there.
I think meaning that this guy they find exceptional.
Gotcha.
With this character. Like they find it to be an exceptional brand of character. A guy who's going to work hard. Like you're not going to have any issues with this guy ever.
I like Matherin. I don't know how that Arizona team lost to anybody. Tate, how do you feel about this pick?
I'm still upset that Houston beat them, but the Cougars I think should be a dark horse for the title next year. They're playing the championship in Houston, Harry. Perk up. I'm not talking about point guards anymore.
I think they're second overall in the odds to win the championship next year.
There you go.
But Ben Matherin, I like that. I mean, he like you said, he's a high character guy. He's also, Titus and I joke on our show. We go through players and we ask if they have that dog in him. Ben Matherin has that dog in him. Right. He definitely will go at anybody, and he also would fit well in Detroit. And Troy Weaver, the GM there, he's always been good at spotting talent. This is a guy that spotted Kevin Durant working for the Sonics back then, and then Russell Westbrook and James Harden. So he knows how to find talent. So Matherin at 5 would be great there. But Murray, if Murray's still there, I worry about that too, because I know they do like Murray. So
all right, there you go. Bri, you and I have over-under picks here. Under 11.5 for Griffin.
Yeah, under 11.5 for Tate's boy AJ Griffin. It seems like with him the biggest issue, right, is health. It seems like he had a lot of little nagging injuries. But how many times does an 18-year-old freshman come in and shoot 45% from 3 right away? Typical kind of wing in today's NBA. He'll be able to guard on the perimeter, and a lot of people think there's more to his offensive game than just shooting threes. And when you look at, I've looked at 4 billion mock drafts. It seems like that's where they have him slotted for the Knicks right now. I do feel like this could be one of those like he could potentially get in the top 10 if a team is looking, whether it's the Pelicans or something, looking for a good fit for some type of shooter on their team. I like it. And right now it's like plus 111 for him to go under 11.5.
So that's worse than, so that's 12 and below. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean,
or 11 and below, right?
Oh, 11.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
11.5? Is that what you said?
Yeah, under 11.5 though.
Oh, under 11.5. Sorry. Gotcha. Okay,
Yep.
right.
Yep.
Sorry, I'll get that straight.
I like that.
Certainly
I think Brian's on. That's a good one. That's a very good one.
I like that too, because I could even see a team like the Spurs even, maybe jumping and saying, we like AJ Griffin, we worked him out, he looked great. And he is one of those guys where, he had 27 points in the first game at Carolina when Duke blew Carolina out, and he was the difference in the game. And the reason why Carolina won the next 2 games is because Leaky Black basically just followed him around the court, right? And he was a freshman, and he was like, I've never had, a grown man that's 22 years old hound me. That's the only thing that would worry me as an NBA team with AJ Griffin. But I think he probably learned a major lesson in that, and will get better. And his dad, Adrian Griffin, obviously played in the NBA. Has great connections with lots of guys. AJ has played with a lot of these guys, knows a lot of these guys, knows the game within the game, so to speak. So if you're a franchise and you want to have a complimentary star, I don't think he's a number 1 guy. He's a number 2, number 3 guy. And you're a team like the Pelicans, like you said, that already has number 1 and number 2. I think he'd be great there. Great fit.
All right, let me round it up. It's going to be tough for all of us to win here because we have Harry saying 4, Parlay Kid picking the exact number 5, Brother Bry has Griffin going in the top 11. I have Johnny Davis, top 10, minus 135. Now, I think 10.5 under is minus 130 if you wanted to go there. A little hint, that's the way to go. But 6'5", shooting guard out of Wisconsin, Big Ten Player of the Year. By the way, if you're a Big Ten Player of the Year and your game translates to the NBA, you probably should be a top 10 player, right? Average 20 and 8. Everything I see, again, like Brother Bry, I've read a million mocks. New Orleans number 8 or Washington number 10, best fit. Wizards were the first to work him out a couple of months ago. They took Sam Decker, the Wizards, 4 years ago from Wisconsin. Our boy Kevin Harlan's son-in-law. Did you happen to see that tape when Kevin Harlan called Harry's dribbling?
No, I did not see that.
Oh, I got to send that to you.
Please send that.
Oh, you're going to love it. It was terrific. Our moment of the year. Johnny Davis.
Very impressive tape.
He's been compared to Ginobili. Not Harry, Johnny Davis. We're back with Johnny Davis. He's a Josh Hart type. I've heard Chris Middleton's name thrown out there. He had a late season ankle injury, which kind of hindered his explosiveness. One of the few players to go in the top 10 that's not a one and done guy. I think Johnny Davis. Either now, watch the Knicks take him at 11, and that'll screw everything up for all of us, right? But I like him top 10. What do you think?
I like him. I like him. Like you said, the Wizards that feels like a team that would take Johnny. We call him Johnny Basketball on our show. I mean, he was a show all year. He was great. He's fun to watch. The ankle injury, if you only watch the tournament or late in the year, you would probably be like, how is this guy a top 10 pick? And it was obviously because he was hurt. But when he got it going, he looked great. And his freshman year, he was not that guy, and he developed. And I think if you're an NBA team, that has to be encouraging, right? I think he averaged 7 points per game his freshman year. And then, like you said, goes up to 20 his sophomore year, is the best player in the Big Ten and, arguably the best player in the country. Obviously, Sheboy won National Player of the Year, but Johnny Davis was in that conversation. So, I think he's a top 10 pick. I wouldn't be shocked if, he goes 8, 9, 10, somewhere in that range. So that's what I would expect.
Well, forget about our dumb picks. What do you like, Tate? I'm giving you a free $100 bet for coming on here. Is there anyone, so they have odds for players to be in the top 10, and you could take a big swing, right? With Mark Williams at plus 480, Agbaji plus 210 is nice. Ty Washington, 22-1. Is there someone we're not mentioning that can sneak into the top 10, or do you just want to go with one of these players over unders, like an AJ Griffin or Mathurin or Dyson Daniels?
What are the odds on Jalen Duren? You see that?
To be what? Top 10? Top 10, he's plus 105.
Yeah, he's right there about
I'll take that. I want Jalen Duren top 10.
Okay. Where do you think he goes?
I think he goes to the Spurs.
All right. Plus 105. That's a fun one.
All right.
Durant
And
plus
if
105.
you were to ask me who the top two play, not that anybody is, but if you were to ask me who the top two
I
players
didn't
are,
have that on the list of questions, so maybe somebody.
I think
Someone
Bill
asked
asked you, didn't he?
Yeah, Simmons asked. That's for saving for
my
Simmons.
top two players in the draft, as far as like what they could be, superstar based on their athleticism and everything, it's Jaden Ivy 1 and Jalen Duren 2. I think those
Really?
two guys
Wow.
are really impressive. In fact, if I had the number one pick, I'd be hard pressed not to tip me to take one of those two guys.
Wow. Interesting. That is big news. I mean, it's not that big. We'll probably get like 6,000 views, but we're going to break that out and show all the public. Well, what also is interesting. I'm seeing a lot of teams or a lot of mocks have Charlotte has the 13 and 15. Is that right?
Yeah.
I'm seeing Jalen Duren go into Charlotte. I also am seeing you going to Charlotte, Tate. Nobody wants to coach that. Do you want that head coaching gig? They may force it on you.
Oh man,
Why not?
I love the Carolina Hornets. You know, shout out to Mitch Kupchak, shout out to Michael Jordan. I want them to figure it out. I respect that Kenny Atkinson was like, I will not do this. I would much rather win championships with Steph Curry. I don't really blame him for that. That makes a lot of sense to me. I would like to do that too. I think that the best move for Michael Jordan is to hire Roy Williams. I think you know, we're already the Carolina Hornets. Roy Williams should have coached in the NBA. He's a great coach. LaMelo Ball's not staying anyway. Why do you want to do that
to Roy Williams?
No, we just give Roy Williams like 3 years at the helm. We just let him, you know, what are the Hornets doing anyway? It should just be our playground, our NBA playground for the Carolina Hornets. And in fact, we might change our name to the North Carolina Hornets, and we might just start wearing Carolina blue. And let Roy Williams coach. I just want to see Roy Williams coach again. And Michael Jordan, you know, that's who recruited him. So that's my big fix. But it sounds like they're going to hire D'Antoni.
Well, actually, I'm getting breaking news from Woj. Mr. K is going to meet with the Charlotte Hornets this week.
See, that's my nightmare.
Wow.
That's my nightmare. I wanted Mr. K to go to the Lakers just so I could watch that whole drama play
I have
out.
to say, Darren, Brian, you know, we're good friends with this guy, Alec, who I don't want to give too much out. But if he owned part of the team, the Hornets, and Tate coached, we'd have to be all in on the Hornets, right? It'd be the greatest 3 weeks of our lives until Tate got fired for
I'm honestly all in, and only because of Tate. It had nothing to do with that.
Okay.
I'm in.
I love it. All right, Tate. So good to have you. Plus 105, Jalen Duren to make the top 10. It's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow. NBA draft. It's one of your favorite nights of the year, would you say?
I mean, I always have a good time. I always remember the 2009 draft. That was my favorite draft when the Minnesota Timberwolves took 4 guards, including 2 North Carolina guards. They took Ty Lawson, Wayne Ellington, Ricky Rubio, and Johnny Flynn. And that was the funniest draft I've ever witnessed. And I still remember it to this day, obviously. So, it's always you know, and as a college basketball guy, it's like you get to see the players that you fall in love with. You get to see them kind of realize their dreams. So that's always fun.
You must have loved that. You love guards. All you do is talk about guards, point guards in particular.
Tate, who is the
where's
next
Johnny Flynn on that list, Tate? Where's Johnny Flynn?
Another Syracuse bust.
Another Syracuse bust.
Tate, who's the next UNC guy to get drafted inside like the top 500? You know, who's the next guy?
I mean, Caleb Love will be, I think, a lottery guy next year. I really do believe that. I think he's going to have a good year. I do think that Gigi Jackson, the number 1 player in the country in 2023, coming to North Carolina, he's playing really well for Team USA. I think he's going to come, and he should be a top 3 pick. So
good.
Hubert Davis is getting it figured out.
Yes, he is.
Well, Tate, like I said, we love having you. Terrific for you to come on here. You want to plug anything? You're leaving Saturday. You're going back to Carolina. You want to plug the airline you're taking? I don't know. Maybe it'll be fun. Maybe miraculously you won't be delayed on Saturday.
Yeah, please don't let that happen, Delta. It's just great to be here. Titus and Tate is the podcast. I also do a new show, a daily sports show with Wondery called Starting 5 that I'm a co-host of, so you can check that out. But otherwise, great to be with my favorite group of people. And as always, I'm glad Jim Cunningham is not here.
Yeah, we all are. I think we can all say that.
He was calling me yesterday for some reason. I don't know.
Really?
He's always calling, Harry. He's always calling.
I mean, he only gets 1 call from jail. You would think you wouldn't waste it on Harry. Can you believe Harry's still married, Tate?
I'm so proud of him.
We missed you, Tate. We missed you there.
Yeah, you blew that off. You made up some COVID reason or something. Yeah. What was that?
COVID is my nightmare. I'm over it. I have like at home tests, but you know.
I know.
It's the worst. But I hated not being there, and I'm sorry Jim was there yet again.
Tate the Great, Tate Frazier. Thanks for coming on, pal. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
fellas.
Tate. Love you.
Hey.